5 most common explanations for UFOs. Number 5. Satellites. As the demand for improved communications, weather forecasting and aerial surveillance grows, the orbital lanes around our planet are growing increasingly cluttered with a wide array of fast-moving and highly reflective satellites of all sizes and configurations. Often trapped in their orbits for years at a time, these silent sentinels of the skies can usually be picked out by anyone with a pair of binoculars and some patience, so they are not an uncommon sight. However, as they can often appear to pulsate in intensity and even wink out when their angle to the sun changes, they doubtlessly account for at least some of the many thousands of UFO sightings made over the years. Number 4. Flares. Military aircraft often drop flares while conducting night training operations or in combat areas as a means of diverting heat-seeking anti-aircraft missiles. These flares are quite large and will burn brightly for up to half an hour at a time, and when suspended from a parachute can remain airborne for some time. As such, if dropped in a cluster, they can take on a beaded necklace effect that gives them the impression of either aircraft hovering in formation, or if close enough together, can even appear to be a string of running lights or portholes. To a public generally unfamiliar with such ordnance and its characteristics, the effect can be spectacular and even frightening, making flares an especially good candidate to be mistaken for a UFO. Number 3. Birds, lens flare reflections and other abnormalities. Few people can accept the possibility that something as seemingly commonplace as a bird could be mistaken for a UFO. But it must be realized that under certain circumstances, for example, when flying at very high altitudes, birds can be highly reflective and when wet even appear to glisten like metal, giving them an artificial or metallic appearance. Additionally, bits of tinfoil or panels of corrugated metal driven skyward by high winds and strong updrafts, falling chunks of ice broken off from a high-altitude airliner, and other bits of aerial flotsam can also take on a silvery sheen and appear quite luminescent, making them occasional candidates for flying discs. Even cockpit lights reflecting off a canopy have been misidentified as high-speed UFO. Number 2. Aircraft. While it is difficult to imagine that anyone could mistake a modern airliner or military jet for an extraterrestrial vehicle, there are circumstances when an aircraft can appear quite unusual, particularly to a highly excitable observer. For example, anyone who has ever seen a jet's landing lights diffused by thick fog or suddenly turned off during a steep ascent, making the aircraft appear to abruptly vanish, could easily imagine they are witnessing something otherworldly. Additionally, an aircraft flying through thick clouds on a dark and windy night, when the sound of engines is often masked, could easily appear as a mysterious bright object winking on and off and changing brightness as it moves silently through the darkness. Also, if seen straight on, an aircraft can appear to be hanging motionless, at least until it makes a sudden turn, thereby mimicking the sudden stops and start movement often associated with UFOs. Number 1. Experimental military aircraft. If regular aircraft can be a source for confusion, it makes sense that unusual-looking experimental aircraft should be even more prone to being misidentified as a UFO, especially considering the vast array of often unusual or at the very least unconventional designs being introduced.